Good morning, happy Wednesday, unless of course you are enjoying this episode and it's not Wednesday, in which case, welcome to a brand new day. I hope yours is delightful. Today's episode of the podcast is inspired by my daughter's bunny rabbit. As she was leaving for school this morning, as she was getting out of the car, she said, "Can you give Fluffy some more water when you get home?" I said, "Yes, I can." And quite candidly, I quite often forget. But as I was just pottering in the kitchen, popping things away after breakfast, I got a reminder. So I was like, "Thank you, Holy Spirit." I got a reminder to go and give Fluffy some more water. And if you could see this bunny rabbit, you would know why she's called Fluffy. She definitely lives up to her name. Incidentally, her partner is called Flash. You can guess why his name is Flash. He's not slow, apart from last week when he was feeling poorly. But I went to go and give Fluffy water, and as I was doing so, God went bing, 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 and gave me today's episode. And so it as an aside, it tickles me how we get these random nudges, and from that then it leads to one thing and then another thing, and you might have had a whole other episode if it hadn't been for that reminder. So what are we digging into today? We're digging into this idea of fixed mindset versus growth mindset, and another layer to that is an invitation from God to consider that He might be inviting you into a new or different way of doing conversation with Him. So let's tell you the story of Fluffy first, though. So Fluffy is about 18 months old. We have two rabbits. They were both meant to be boys. We bought them both as boys. It turns out that Fluffy is a girl. So we don't want baby bunny rabbits. They don't live together. They're like star-crossed lovers. But Fluffy has historically never really liked drinking out of a water bottle. And so my daughter, she did some research and she said, well, some rabbits, they like to drink out of a bowl. And so bless her, every single day, my daughter would go in there and fill this water bowl up. And this rabbit would invariably run around and knock the water bowl over. And then there'd be times where, oh, she's got no water. And oh, dear me. However, a few weeks ago, another of our pets, we had a guinea pig, Pepsi, bless him. He came to the end of a very long life and he passed away. And after the appropriate amount of grieving time, my husband said, "We've got a spare water bottle now. Do you think it'd be worth giving the water bottle to Fluffy, just in case?" So I thought, yeah, that's not a terrible idea. And so that's what we did. And would you believe it? This rabbit has not stopped drinking water from the water bottle since. I mean, she has stopped. It's not like she's drinking water every second of the day. She doesn't have diabetes as far as I know. But she drinks really, really well from this water bottle. And this is a rabbit who historically would never, as a baby rabbit, would never drink from the water bottle. And this thought popped in my head. It was a series of thoughts, and we went from there. I was like, okay, Holy Spirit, what are you actually saying to us with this? And the reminder is a couple of things. Thing number one, people change. And so if you've got people in your life, you might actually have reminders right now, or thoughts, or maybe people are coming to mind right now. People who historically over time have maybe been a bit challenging. And I want to encourage you to have an open mind and ask God to help you see that person as He sees them. I've got examples which I'm not going to give, but I've got examples from, because it's not fair to name names. I can tell my own stories, but it's not fair to call out other people's stories. But I can in my mind right now, I can think of people who over the years, I have seen them change and develop. And it's not that they're changing who they are. Like, all that we do at YouYear is about encouraging you to be who God made you to be. And at the same time, we can mature into that. We can get to know ourselves even more as God unpacks layers of what it means for you to be you. And you develop maturity. And so there will be people in your life who maybe they're people who quite candidly have hurt you over the years. It's easy for me to say this, I will add that caveat, but I want to encourage you today to consider asking God, what does it look like to see this person as you see them, to love this person as you love them, and maybe even give them another chance. Now, I'm not suggesting you should be a doormat and you should allow everybody to walk all over you and hurt you. That's not what I'm saying. And this nudge will not be for everybody. Because, when I share things, you also at the same time have the ability to have discernment and say to God, okay, which part of this is for me? Is this for me? And sometimes it won't be. But if there are people that are coming to mind right now, or people that come to mind later, ask God to help you unpack that and see what that looks like. The other side to this as well, though, there's a comical side to this actually, which follows on from a conversation I was having with two of my friends this morning. I'm one of those really irritatingly chirpy early bird people when I get enough sleep. If I go to bed too late, I'm still quite tired, like any other human being. But I naturally am quite awake in the morning. They are not. And so we had this very brief conversation this morning about could I train them to be morning people? And I initially said, well, you're kind of born like it or not. But Holy Spirit reminded me quite clearly, no, that's not the case. I mean, yes, that is the case, but our minds are not fixed. So anything in life, and we use the example of morning people versus late night owls, but this can apply to anything. If there are things in your life that, you are feeling God is nudging you to develop, you can do that. The pathways in your brain, the neurons, the way they fire together. And no, I'm not a brain scientist, so I don't have all the quite correct lingo. But I do know that neuroplasticity, the science is catching up with the way that your brain is wired. And the more that you practice certain activities and you lay down those new pathways, the more and the easier it becomes. That's why I fully maintain that the more you practice being a silver lining spotter, for example, using that 3-word hack, but at least, the easier it becomes. We've talked before extensively about what Angela's husband Jim calls that yellow car thing, the reticular activating system. The way that your mind is wired is it will filter in those things it deems important, and you can train it. So that's almost a side note. I know that you're only meant to have like one main idea in these little tiny episodes because they're really short. We've got 3. The third thing, which Holy Spirit reminded me of, was that invitation, which I mentioned right at the start of this episode. Consider if there are ways that you have heard from God, and remember when we say that word heard in invert commas, because it's not always going to be a voice. Sometimes it's going to be a thought that pops in your head. Sometimes it's going to be a feeling, a scent, all of the senses. If there is a way that you've historically said, no, God doesn't speak to me like that, or heaven forbid, if you've ever thought, no, God doesn't speak to me, that's just not true. God is inviting you today to consider, is he inviting you to step into a new or different way to hear from him? Ask him and see what that might look like. Because I've shared with you before that these stories that he pops into my mind and then goes bum, 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 like this random occurrence with the rabbit today, he's been doing that to me, through me, with me, for years. I just didn't know it was him. And so the more that you step into this and do relationship and do that, and, okay, God, ask him questions. What does that look like? I've got a whole story for another time of stuff that's happening in May as a result of asking God a very specific question. He wants to be known by you. He wants to do relationship with you. And so that's the third part of this as well. So number 1, are there people who are challenging? Ask God to help you see them as he sees them. Number 2, it's that fixed mindset versus growth mindset. Are there areas of your life that you'd like to develop and grow, get better at? You can, and God can help you, thanks to the way that your mind is wired. And number 3, is God inviting you into a new way of communicating with him, of doing relationship with him? Those are our 3 little reminders, thanks to my daughter's bunny rabbit and a nudge from Holy Spirit this morning. But I'd love to hear from you as well. As you start to explore this and you play this stuff out, come back and share what comes up for you. If you're a member of the playground, share those things in the playground. We are building community, doing life together. You don't have to do this stuff on your own. Which of course leads me to my reminder as well. For those people who are watching or listening who are not members of the Itchy Soul Playground, consider this your invitation. God has purposely made it affordable. It's a delightful little space and it is growing in 2021, and we're doing life together, and I love it. It's delightful. I feel excited to wake up every morning and get to interact with the folks that are in there. So if you haven't already considered joining us and you're feeling nudged to do so, youier.com/join is where you can do that. With all of that said, this is the end of today's little episode. I'm glancing at the timer. We're doing really well, and this is God helping us to keep these episodes under 10 minutes. Again, tomorrow, housekeeping for anybody who's listened to these almost in real time. Tomorrow we're going to be starting 10 minutes earlier because I've got my sister coming over and lots of other busy things, and I want to make sure I get to do all of the things. But of course, if you're not joining us live yet and you'd like to, want to be part of the live studio audience like Acelia and Angela, you can do that on the Facebook page, 9 a.m. every weekday morning, except for tomorrow, except for Thursday when it's going to be 10 to. Thank you for being here. I wish you a wonderful Wednesday, a delightful day, and I look forward to sharing another story tomorrow.